In today's show, Colorado men's basketball coach Tad Boyle joins the program, and we talk all things Jabari Walker, what he was like his 2 years in Boulder, and what's he going to be like as he makes a transition to the NBA. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazer reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen every single day, free on all platforms, 5 days a week, coming at you every single weekday, having a whole bunch of fun all off season long. So make it a part of your daily routine and make it your very first listen. Today's show is a fun one. I am going to be joined here in moments by Tad Boyle, the head coach at the University of Colorado, who recruited and then coached Jabari Walker for 2 seasons. We'll get some insights on what Jabari was like coming out of high school, how he improved at Boulder, and what are the next steps for him as he transitions to the pros. It's a ton of fun, and Coach Boyle had some wonderful insights. So check it out. Joining me now, University of Colorado men's basketball coach Tad Boyle. Coach, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing better because I've got to watch Jabari Walker play basketball for 3 days now in Vegas, and he's a pretty enjoyable fellow. You had the opportunity to coach him and recruit him for 2 years in Boulder. I want to start with how you guys met, because it's sort of it's becoming a small legend out here in Portland. Is it true you'd really never seen him play before offering him a scholarship?
Well, no, that's not 100% factual. It's I'd seen him play in the fall before his senior year at Compass Prep in Arizona. But to be honest with you, I didn't get a great evaluation. I mean, it was one of those situations where I said, okay, this kid's got a chance. I don't know how good he's going to be and when he's going to be good, but I know he's going to be good. And so we recruited him all year. It was the year of COVID.
Right.
So, we had the opportunity to watch him throughout the year, but then COVID hit and, recruiting kind of came to a standstill, and we started recruiting on Zoom.
There you go.
And so we had a Zoom call with Jabari and his family and got to know him and talk to him about what Colorado basketball is all about, and how we really believe in developing players, and we're not concerned about where you're ranked and who else is recruiting you and those sorts of things. So, I think they liked what they heard, and quite frankly, they took a leap of faith. When I say they, his family,
right?
They took a leap of faith with us, and because they didn't know anything much about us either, other than what we showed them on our Zoom calls.
Right. You don't get to do the things that you do on recruiting trips and go into people's homes and meet face to face and do all of the what makes, quite frankly, July special for college basketball coaches.
Absolutely, and more importantly than that, it's the fact that we didn't even get a chance to have him on an official visit. Like, right. He never stepped foot on campus, and so it was a leap of faith from our standpoint. And it was a leap of faith from Jabari and his family standpoint. And, it's funny, when we signed Jabari, we also signed a kid named Tristan Da Silva, who's a very good player. He'll be a junior next year. But we also signed a kid named Jariah Horn. And Jariah was a grad transfer from Tulsa. And the reason we signed Jariah was we weren't 100% sure how good Tristan was or how good Jabari was.
Sure.
And I remember having a conversation with Samaki, Jabari's dad. Yep. And I distinctly remember him saying, Coach, I hope he can help you by the time he's a sophomore or junior. He's got a ways to go. And I said, yeah, I hope so too. I hope it's sooner than that. But when he got on campus and, we went through workouts, and it became apparent that this kid's going to be good. And we've always been a school and a program that believes in redshirting. We've had great success redshirting kids, especially kids that maybe aren't quite ready for Division I basketball when they come out of high school. So I'm not afraid to do that whatsoever. But in Jabari's case, I felt like he was too good to redshirt. Like this kid's going to be able to help us, this year, and he did. but
What?
we had Tristan, we had Uriah, and so he split time as a freshman.
Right.
And it was he was great with it and played his role and he played with a great point guard, McKinley Wright, which really helped.
You guys were really good.
And we were good.
Yeah,
we had a good team. Yeah, no question, NCAA tournament team. So, and then it was funny. The next year it was Jabari's time.
Right. So what did you see before freshman year that said, hey, this kid is going to play year one, first year on campus? And where did he take steps from freshman year as a role player to sophomore year when he was, a star in college basketball?
Yeah. The two things that I felt like Jabari did well, especially for a guy his size, is he rebounded the ball very efficiently. I always look at rebounds per minute. I don't look at total rebounds. So, for example, Jabari played 15 minutes a game, as a freshman, and he played, almost 30 minutes a game as a sophomore. Well, his rebounding numbers went up, but his rebounding per minute numbers were relatively. They went up a little bit, but the time he was on the floor, he would get rebounds. So that was number one, and then number two is ability to take and make open shots.
Yeah.
And, he was a great standstill shooter. Again, playing with McKinley Wright, playing with, other really good players kind of alleviated some pressure off of him. So he got wide open looks. He made 5 threes against Georgetown in the NCAA tournament, and they were all, wide open looks. But he makes them. There's guys that can take shots and there's guys that can make shots. And Jabari, it was very apparent that he could make shots. So those two things are what stood out. His role changed significantly from his freshman year to his sophomore year. He went from a role player to a starter. Guy played heavy minutes. We were really counting on him to help us win games. And it takes time. I always say, development is a process. And you have to respect the process. There's no fast forward button. You wish you had it as a coach. Players wish they had it, but they have to go through, the process of going from a role player to a starter, and who's, you were maybe the fourth or fifth guy in the scouting report your freshman year, where your sophomore year, you're first or second. Defenses are designed to stop you.
Right.
And that takes a while to adjust to that. And it took Jabari a while.
Today's show is brought to you by RockAuto.com, the family business, specializing helping do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. That's 2 decades of experience helping you save time and save money, real money, like 30 or 50 or 100% compared to when you go to a chain auto parts store or a car dealership. They are born online. They do not suffer from the challenges of a brick and mortar store that just can't possibly carry all the parts for every make and model that's on the road now. Rock Auto was built to save you money, and they're still doing it now. So head on over to their website. That's rockauto.com. See all the parts available for your car or your truck. And while you're there, make sure to write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. That way they will know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right. Let's get back into it. More of my conversation with Colorado men's basketball head coach Tad Boyle. Were there concerns? He started sophomore year a little bit slow, and then he was just great to finish the season. Were there concerns when you said, okay, he's clearly ready to take a bigger role, but when it didn't click right away, like what were the adjustments you and him had to kind of make for him to figure it out, or for you guys to figure it out collectively?
I think the biggest thing was he was putting too much pressure on himself. It was all between the ears. His stroke was his stroke. Like he's a good shooter, but he was putting so much pressure on himself to make shots. And sometimes he would force them. And sometimes, he would miss a shot and you could see the frustration because he expected to make every shot. And I think about midway through the season, I remember a conversation Jabari and I had in December. And I said, listen, man, you seem like you're playing with expectations that are weighing you down on your shoulders. And unfortunately, with the world we live in today, with social media, with all this chatter and talk and noise that is in these kids' ears and around their families, they put so much pressure on themselves. Yeah. And my job as a coach is to take the pressure off of them. And you got to play the game for the joy of playing the game, because you love the game, because you love your teammates, because you're in college, you want to have fun. And so much pressure is put on these kids to get to the next level and, come out early and all that sort of thing. And I said, Jabari, you just got to play your game. If you just play your game, the rest will take care of itself. And he started doing that. And that's why I think as his sophomore year developed, he really started to play better. I'm not saying just because of that conversation, but I think it was a mental adjustment that he had to make. And to his credit, he made it.
Sure.
And I'm really proud of him for doing that, because it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's the load to make that progress from freshman year of college to sophomore year of college is a major step, and to do it in season is an even bigger one. Was there a moment when you were watching him or coach him in practice and said, "Oh, I think he's a pro"?
Well, I felt like that at times when he was a freshman, quite frankly, and it was just a matter of time, a matter of when. And look, at the end of his year, at the end of his sophomore year, here was my message to Jabari. My message was, listen, you're 19 years old. You're still developing. Now, the good news is you're going to be a pro. You know it. I know it. I think the NBA people know it. Your family knows it. Like, you're going to be a pro. The question is, where do you want to continue your development? Do you want it to be on an NBA team? Hopefully. And hopefully he makes the Blazers roster, right? Gets a roster spot. And if he doesn't, then it'll be on a two-way contract in the G League, assuming that happens. Again, I'm not privy to these conversations, but that one of those two things is probably going to be true for you, Jabari.
Right.
And the other option is come back to college and continue to develop at Colorado. And that's a decision you have to make, your family has to make, and he made it, and we're supportive of it. And I'm, there's nobody rooting for Jabari Walker more than the people involved in Colorado basketball. We want to see him do well and be successful and have a great career in Portland.
Yeah, CU has had some sneaky success with NBA guys. Like Derek White was a huge part of a team that could have won the NBA championship. Spencer Dinwiddie obviously found his footing with Dallas and was a big part of a team that went to the Western Conference Finals. It's a program that has had some success churning out pros in the league.
Alec Burks.
Right?
He's
good.
Been 11 years in the NBA now.
Yeah, he's gonna be a useful player in Detroit, or if he's good enough, he might end up being a useful player traded to somewhere else, because he can really help. Like, there's sneaky pros coming out of Boulder. The thing that I watch thing that I like when I watch Jabari, and full disclosure, I didn't watch a ton of Colorado basketball. I'm an NBA guy, but I've watched him in summer league, and the thing that stands out is he knows how to play basketball. Like that's the simplest way I can say it. His feel is really impressive on both ends. Did that stick out to you early in his career? Like, were there moments when you said, oh, this kid just kind of gets it?
Yeah, because he's, the one thing about Jabari, he's got a nose for the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I've, we another pro, and he's not in the league anymore, unfortunately, Andre Roberson.
Right.
He never quite came back after that knee injury.
Yeah.
But Andre was a guy a lot like Jabari in terms of his instincts in rebounding the basketball. And I think that's something I wish I could take credit for as a coach. But the fact of the matter is, kids either have a nose for the ball or they don't. And Jabari has it. And so those instincts that players have, you want them to, play with those instincts. You don't want to inhibit them. You want to have them, feel free. And, I told Jabari, defensively, he's an elite defensive rebounder.
Yeah.
Elite defensively. And he's getting better offensively. It would come and it would go. Sometimes he would go to the board. Sometimes he wouldn't. He's such a good 3-point shooter. A lot of times he's around the 3-point line. We posted up Jabari some, but not a lot. And he's such a good shooter that, he was, but to go now, that's the one thing. And again, you say you're an NBA guy, not a college guy. I'm a college guy, not an NBA guy. But the one thing I've noticed about the NBA is they don't, offensive rebounding is not a big
No,
piece of their. They
nobody
don't do
does it. Nobody does it. No one's there's like
And
no crash teams in the league.
no crash.
Everyone is get back at all costs. You get yelled at if you don't sprint from the corner. You're sitting in the NBA.
Exactly.
Teams even do it in crunch time when they need an offensive rebound. They are so prone to not crash. That is something that just does not happen in the NBA. So you're saying Jabari's got it in him. He could be a better offensive rebounder there.
He could, but again, from what I know about the NBA, it's probably not going to happen because of exactly what you're talking about. He's going to talk, and the other thing I love about Jabari is he's really coachable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really he listens to coaching. I'm so glad he's with Chauncey. And that staff. I think Chauncey's put together a really, really good coaching staff, assistant coaches who have experience in the NBA, and Jabari's young enough where he's going to listen, he's going to learn, and he'll continue to get better. And so I'm excited for his up. I watched the game last night. Those 9:00 tips, man, they kill guys like me that have bedtime at 10. But I stayed up and watched him, and really, really proud of what he's doing. And obviously, summer league's a summer league. You get into training camp and you get into the NBA season, it's a different animal. But he's off to a good start.
Yeah, he looks like he belongs. It looks like he belongs. It is not a 19-year-old who's out of place. And in summer league, sometimes you see teenagers that look like, oh, okay, he'll need a little bit. I don't think Jabari looks like that. He looks like someone who you are doing calculations. Okay, how do we fit this in, because he's NBA sized and he has a lot of skills. And you want to get that player on the floor. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. More lines, more props, more odds than ever before. Got action on whatever you need. The Summer League's winding down, but you can still bet on every single game until the Summer League Championship. You can bet on Major League Baseball's regular season. You can bet on MLS. You can bet on NWSL. Whatever you're looking for, you're going to find action. Tennis, golf, combat sports, you name it. Plus, they got tons of informative articles to make you a smarter, better, and help you win real money. So go sign up for a free account today to take advantage. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Let's continue the conversation with Coach Boyle from the University of Colorado as we wrap up our chat about Jabari Walker and his transition to being an NBA forward. He told folks out in Vegas that he thinks he can be better in the pros because the pro game fits his style. Do you agree with that to some extent?
Yeah, I think time will tell. He was just scratching the surface in college.
Sure.
He had a great sophomore year, had a very good freshman year. So, yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. He was a heck of a college player.
Yeah, he just led the Pac-12 in rebounding, was like top 5 in scoring. He was pretty good in college too.
Exactly. And again, Jabari just has a way of, there's some guys, it's amazing. There's some guys that just have a way of kind of stuffing the stat sheet, so to speak.
Yep.
And he's one of those guys. Sometimes he'd play, and I'm like, Jabari I didn't think he was very good tonight. And he's got 15 points and 11 rebounds, and he had 17 double doubles, led the Pac-12 in double doubles. He was really on a streak there where because he can score and he can rebound, and so yeah, we'll. I think the jury's out. Look,
sure.
The NBA is it's a man's league, as they say,
yep.
And no babies allowed, right? And Jabari, there's no question in my mind, he's got the ability to play in that league. But what I've learned from just watching the guys like Andre, like Alec, who are as talented as guys that we've coached. Jabari's right in that mix. Spencer and Derek, they have to get in the right situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the key. And that's where I just hope that Portland's the right situation. Because if it is, he'll be successful. If it's not, he's going to have to find one situation that is right. And so there's a lot that goes into making an NBA roster. It's
absolutely.
Not all just
and sticking in the league like that. The hardest thing to do is stick.
Absolutely.
He has done step one, which is hear his name called on draft night and get invited to summer league. Sticking in the league is a whole different
deal. And
yeah.
I always say the guys that get to their second contract are the guys that are ready for the league. Derek White was ready for the league when he got there. He got to his second contract. Spencer Dinwiddie was ready for the league. Alec Burks was ready for the league. Andre Roberson was ready for the league. I think Jabari Walker's ready for the league. but he's 19 years old. He's really
Right.
young. I mean, Alec was young, but and again, he had to kind of find his way.
Sure.
It didn't work out for the team that drafted him, but then he found a home in Utah and had a really good career there.
Yeah, made himself a bunch of money with the Jazz. Like, it worked out for him.
Yep.
What is Coach Bill's relationship with the Buffs basketball program? Is he around, connected to it still?
He's not around as much because obviously he's busy coaching
Right.
the team.
Right.
But Chauncey has been great to me since I became the head coach here 12 years ago. His brother Rodney, who's on his staff now
Right.
in Portland, was one of my assistant coaches for my first 6 years at Colorado. Then he went off and was the head coach at University of Denver, and now he's fortunate enough to be with the Trailblazers in the league. So I've known the Billups family now for 12 years. I knew Chauncey off and on a little bit before I got the job, but he's been great to the Buffs. He's come back and spoken to our team at times. It's been a few years since he's been back on campus, but we stay in touch. We talk. I follow the Blazers. I know he follows the Buffs, and so our relationship's a good one. I wish I got a chance to see him a little bit more, and I got a chance to see him when Rodney was on staff and Chauncey was living in Denver. But now that he's obviously coaching in the NBA, he's got his hands full with the Blazers. So
yeah,
we don't talk as much as we once did, but always pulling for each other, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he holds, just like from talking to him, he really holds the program in high regard. Like he's rooting for you, even if he does have a pretty demanding 10 months out of his year. You got to catch him in August.
No doubt.
That is your real window for the NBA.
I've been talking to him for about 3 years about trying to get out of the golf course.
There you go.
We both want to do it, but it's tough to find the time,
Well, next time I see him, I'll pressure him to text you back and say, listen, you got to play with Coach Boyle.
That's right.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us and talking a little Jabari Walker. We're excited to see him. Blazers play a fourth, for my listeners, a fourth Summer League game Thursday evening. You're listening to Wednesday, July 13th show. This is Thursday evening. You get to see Jabari again, and the Blazers will play at least one more game in Vegas, and 2 more chances to see a promising youngster. So be sure to check that out. And Coach, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Enjoy Jabari. He's a great one.
We will. Thanks again to Coach Boyle for joining the program. It was a ton of fun to chat with him about Jabari. We got more shows coming the rest of this week on Locked On Blazers, because that's what we do 5 days a week, available wherever you get podcasts. So come back tomorrow. We'll have more. I was teasing this interview. If you're a listener who's listened to the bunch of episodes this week, I was trying to tease this interview, but I wasn't sure when it was going to go down. So the interview that you were waiting for later in the week was actually with Coach Boyle. So we got this one away, but we'll have more shows later this week, including a recap of the next Blazers Summer League game they play on Thursday evening. But we got more in the tank. We got more to talk about. So come back and join us. We'll see, what happens with Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz and how that impacts the Blazers and everything else happening across the NBA with the Trailblazers lens, because that's what we do. So tell your friends to listen to this podcast. Make it their first listen. That way y'all have something to talk about. I appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you soon.